not so good on me, but I love this color. That's good.
I've been loving orange lately.
You have this color lipstick?
Almost.
Lady Marmalade on that one. Oh, that's
We've been talking for like an hour, and I turn on the camera and we stop talking.
I know, right? Have we actually been talking for an hour? Time flies.
Half hour.
Wow. Okay.
Welcome to That Knitting Show. So, Erin, what have you been up to?
What have I been up to?
Besides winding hanks of yarn.
Twisting. I got to be careful when I say that because then someone thinks I'm going to make them go.
No, twisting.
Never. Yes. No, I just am kind of particular about how they end up getting organized, and it bothers me when they're all sort of falling apart. I think they look so much better when you put the time and effort into twisting them like this.
I sometimes I help at your booth when you are places, and I feel like I either over twist or under twist. Do you have a twisting ratio or?
Really depends on the skein, and then once I do it, usually I start with 3 for a skein of, say, worsted weight, and then see if it needs a half twist.
An additional.
Yeah, okay. Exactly. So
we're going to come back and talk about that yarn in a little bit, but I'm curious, what's been going on at the farm lately?
What's been going on at the farm? Well, we're getting ready for shearing.
And it hasn't happened yet? I thought shearing happened during this last month.
Nope, shearing is coming up end of March. We want to make sure that it is appropriately placed around lambing so that everybody is clean and dry and in good shape for that, so it's easier for les babies to nurse. And we also, of course, keep an eye on the weather. That's important. And actually, we had some pretty crazy snowstorms that then turned into rain, so everything was encased in a layer of ice, and
it was so pretty.
It really was.
Not fun to be in.
Well, let's just say I almost fell on my bum more than once trying to get around to just survey things, make sure everything's okay, because ice on wire can really stretch it, and that's where you get fences that break. So just walking around, checking that kind of stuff out.
Yeah.
I almost took a few diggers, but I did take some really awesome photos. So that made me think, should there be a Morehouse Farm calendar?
Yes. Yeah. I have 3 sheepy calendars already. So this would be a fourth.
5th, 6th, 8th.
I'm like, I have a problem with my friends who have sheep who put out calendars. I cannot resist them. So I'm up to 3 at the moment. So if you do one, I'll have 4.
Awesome. Because you really do need calendars in more than one place, because you're not going to take a wall calendar and walk it around the house, right? So I'm just going to say my cowl's a little... I've moved that weather girl problem with the, when your necklace ends up being... Yeah.
So, it's March. It still looks wintry outside here. We had like a week of spring, and then the snow came back. And now I was very angry at the groundhog. He said we would have 6 more weeks, and then like immediately afterwards it warmed up, and I thought he had lied to us, but no, he was right again.
Just kidding. 6 weeks if he sees it and 6 weeks if he doesn't, isn't it?
I don't know. I feel like since I've started paying attention the last few years, and he's been right the last few years. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, clearly then he's been right for hundreds of years. Did I tell you we went to Punxsutawney last summer? Yeah. So when...
Did you meet him?
Yeah. Well, we were behind glass.
Phil doesn't take visitors?
Yeah, we did a road trip to the border of West Virginia and Ohio, because there's a lot of pottery. Like all the pottery in the U.S. basically used to be right there.
Oh, clay soil?
Clay soil and water to power the factories. And my ancestors came from pottery...
Barn?
Places came from pottery manufacturing in the UK, and they settled there because of pottery manufacturing. And so
that's cool.
I wanted to go see it, and that's actually where Fiesta Wear is still made. Those of you who know Fiesta Wear, so they have an outlet there. It's much cheaper. But anyway, so we went there, and on the way back, we were driving across Pennsylvania forever and ever, and we saw the sign for Punxsutawney, and I was like, when are we ever going to go to Punxsutawney? So we went, and you know how some towns have, like our town has turkeys and horses and pigs that have been painted, and businesses have them outside. Punxsutawney has giant gophers.
Not groundhogs.
Groundhogs. that are all over. So that was fun. And then where they actually do the like pulling fill out and saying the prediction is actually outside of town, a big amphitheater on a hillside that can hold like 2,000 people. Because when it happens, it's big. But when he is not performing his duties, he and his wife live in the library.
Oh.
And they have a glass, it was closed while we were there, but they have, because of the lockdown still, but they have a glass wall, so you can go to the library and be outside and see them inside. So
how do I get a job like that?
Right?
Live in the library and work one day a year?
Sounds wonderful. So that's, random thing.
Nice.
Anyway, I've been working on all sorts of crazy things this last month because I've been doing the Great Yarn Challenge. So every week, the Craft Yarn Council puts out a new prompt, and you are to make something with yarn that matches the prompt. And the Craft Yarn Council represents a lot of like the big box yarn stores, yarn brands and things, and not being snobby, but I just don't tend to use those anymore. But I figured, and the purpose of something like this is obviously to draw attention to the products of the people involved. And I thought, well, I'll stash dive. And if I find stuff that works, then I'll do it. Well, one of the sponsors was also Barocco.
Oh.
And I was like, loophole, I'm good. So I did all kinds of things for that. I have some of them here. Some of them are already away. But one of them was crafting in the wild. And so I made these little flower power scrubbies here. And then this, I think, is
it like once a day or once a week?
It's once a week.
Okay. And
I don't want to be snarky, but some people got really big projects done in that week, and I think they started them ahead of time. But this is
not like the jury duties.
Oh yeah, jury duty. I had jury duty twice in.
I know. So
I had it on. Well, it was 8 days apart from one another.
Right.
So I had jury duty. Did we talk about this last time?
We talked a lot about that.
I thought we talked about
it. I think it happened though.
So just so you know, I was able to get in with my crochet hook. Knitting needles, clearly, explicitly no, but crochet hook was fine. I actually will show you the project I worked on with that. But this is the Loopy Love baby blanket that is crocheted in Barocco Weekender DK, and the color's not picking up right. This should be like a much more Kelly green. And this is actually the leftover yarn for a sweater I made. I like way overbought. And I knit a sweater last year that has lace sleeves. And it's there on my
I remember Ravelry. That one. Oh,
yeah, if you want to look back. So it's all stockinette, and then it had lace sleeves, and I gave it to Abby. She loved it. But I had a bunch left, so I crocheted that. And then what else did I do over here? Oh, the current this week one, it'll be over. Like, it will be into next week by the time this goes live. But the current one was to stitch your state into a crochet or knit block. That's the wrong side. That's the back side. And then send it in to Warm Up America.
Aww.
So this so far I am on Connecticut. Now I'm cheating because it's crochet and tarja. I'm knitting it right into the block. And so there's supposed to be like these two bays that come up into here. And I was like, nah, I'm not dealing with that. I'm just not dealing with that.
Let's see. What would be that? That would be the Thames River? Not the Thames,
I don't even
but the
know.
Thames,
Do they
right?
say
and
Thames?
The Connecticut River.
Maybe that's... My husband keeps saying Thames when we're in the UK, and I'm like, Thames. And he's like, Thames. And I think maybe that's probably why.
Well, we haven't... like my... over by the farm, right? Head north, there's a Greenwich, New York. But it's Greenwich if you're from Connecticut.
Right,
so,
yeah. You got to get it. Everybody
Yep.
has... And Amherst, Massachusetts is the only Amherst in the country that doesn't say the H.
Mm-hmm.
Everywhere else is Amherst. and that's how it's spelled. But in Massachusetts, we just said Amherst.
Mm-hmm. And you have a P in your Hamden.
Yeah. Hamden is not Hampton.
Well, we just left the P out in Connecticut.
I'm supposed to... I'm supposed to embroider stuff on this. So if you were embroidering symbols on a Connecticut square, what would you embroider?
Well, I'm laughing because I remember seeing a book at the library. It was a kid's book, and it was like repetitive place names. Like throughout the country, what are those names that are used in lots of places? Hamden, Connecticut, Hamden, Mass. Well, there's a town called Andover in Connecticut, and it's in a lot of other states. So you have the same town, Andover. Let's see. So Connecticut is known as the Constitution State. And it is the Nutmeg State.
Yeah.
The state flower is mountain laurel. So you could...
As is much of New England.
Yeah. So you could just, mountain laurel that baby.
I was going to try and do, first I'm going to go back in. I'm not up to Hartford yet, but when I was going to do like a little star over Hartford. You were done.
I was like...
No, I still have I'm a little over halfway. I was going to do star over Hartford. Mm-hmm. I thought maybe trying to put a bear in our area.
Okay.
A little bear. Mm-hmm. But I don't know if I'll be able to get the detail of it on there. Anyway, that's this week. So I'm going to be working on that and try and get that done by Sunday. This was another one. Just wear it. This is the Cinca shawl by Amy Christophers.
Not a week.
This was a week.
Oh, cool.
That was the amazing thing. I did have a lot of knitting time that week, but this was a week. And this lace here, we're going to talk more about lace later. Looks very intimidating. It is some very tiny repeats of the same thing over and over again.
Beautiful.
So it was very easy to do. Yeah, so that's like my Craft Yarn Council Great Yarn Challenge experiences so far. The last thing I needed to do, it's the 2 weeks from now. Or no, it's next week. Is to teach someone how to crochet. And I've been teaching my youngest daughter's friend. No, sorry, you don't have to teach them to crochet. You have to teach them a craft. Oh. And they chose crochet. Okay. So I am teaching them double crochet. It's just a really long scarf. Mm-hmm. I had some Barocco Quechua, and I was using it to teach them how to do it. And so I was doing it as a scarf, and then I was like, no, it's going to be long and skinny. I'd rather have a cowl. So I took it apart and I redid it. And this is what I worked on during jury duty. Fantastic. As I waited until 11:30 when they told us we could go home. And I finished this at like 11:25. And I was like, oh no, what am I going to do? I ran out of crafting. And I was like sort of on Instagram, like, oh, I'm going to be so bored for the rest of the day. And then they were like, hey, everyone, you can go home. So worked perfectly.
Good timing.
So that has been that adventure. And it was kind of intense to try and keep up with that. I'm not going to lie.
That was a lot of projects.
It was a lot of projects in 6 weeks' time. Well, and yeah, it's only been 5 weeks' time, really. And I got to finish that block, and then I'm like done with the projects.
Oh, nice. Okay.
Yeah. So the other thing going on is the Hap Cowl Knit Along. That started at the beginning of the month. And if you have not jumped in on this yet, you still have time. Because I had to start knitting one so that I'm doing it with Jana from Purl Together. She's a YouTube podcaster. And so we needed to do our videos ahead of time so she could edit them. Mm-hmm. And so we have like the first half of them done. And then I could not stop working on this. And so I'm actually going to be knitting another one. I have another one on the needles. That's what I'm knitting on while I sit here. But this is the Hap Cowl designed by Ella Gordon, who is a Shetland-based designer. And it's inspired by Shetland haps, which this is like the workaday shawl. So they generally had a plain middle and then old shale border. And they would wear it as a triangle and like tuck it in to a waistband or tie it behind them, and then that was like their winter coat. I did weird things to my hair while I was putting this on. This is a cowl based on that design where you just have garter stitch and then the lace on the bottom, and then you can double it up.
Nice.
And it's very nice and comfy. So I did it in Uradale's jumper weight. And originally was going to do blues and pinks. And as I swatched for color, I decided I wasn't in love with it. And so I went like much more bold with my oranges, blues, greens, and yellows.
You are on an orange kick.
I am. I totally am on an orange and blue kick. And then as I was knitting this and realizing, oh no, I'm finishing this way too fast, I looked back at my color swatch with the blues and the pinks, and I was like, you know what? I do like that. So I've cast on again. And as everyone else is doing the knit along, I cast on day one, and I'm also doing the knit along.
Nice.
So, and it's perfect. The first 4.5 inches, I think, are just garter.
Mm-hmm.
So just knit. So here I am podcasting and knitting. So that's what I'm.
Life is good.
Life is good. The last thing I've been working on pertains to you, my friend.
I'm an instigator.
Yeah, so last time we talked about the butterfly cowl,
mm-hmm.
and I was so excited to do it, and you left, and I completely forgot about it.
Oh,
like completely.
My impact is not lasting. Man,
I completely forgot about it. And then
among 6 other projects, maybe.
Yeah,
And it will surface again. Did it come back up?
It came back up
All
because
right. See, there we go.
I was so busy with everything, I hadn't been checking in on the Morehouse Merino flock group. And I opened my phone one day and I saw like, oh, you have like 9 notices. And I was like, oh gosh, I better poke in and see. And I saw everybody's beautiful butterfly cowls. And I thought, oh, I totally forgot about them. So sorry if that was very loud. So I went stash diving
mm-hmm.
because that's one of my goals this year is if I'm going to do a knit along, I want to try and do it from stash as much as possible.
Mm-hmm.
And I had this beautiful Morehouse lace weight that I knit, I used last year on one of our Louisa Harding shawls that we did as a knit along. And then I have this one that is a special one. I don't know that you actually sell this one.
No, I dyed that for you.
Yeah, you dyed this one for me. But is this also the lace, or is this a different put up? Okay, so this is the lace. And Erin dyed it. Was it with Kool-Aid?
Mm-hmm.
It's so pretty. It's over dyed on one of the natural shades. And so it gets some really fun tones. And so this is rainbow. So it has red in it. And I was like, do I want to put them together? But this has a nice variation in the tonality because it is over dyed on a natural color. And so I was like, yeah, I'm going for it. And so this is my progress so far.
That looks awesome.
And one of the things that's great about the butterfly cowl is that the different color, the contrast between the main color and the contrast color can be really striking. But I actually like this, how subtle it is.
And I think that's the neat variation in that because it's Marin Melchior's design if you haven't seen it yet. And this cowl is sort of the beginner version if you don't want to commit to an entire shawl or poncho or the blanket. She's got so many of them. Try this one. And if you're not confident to go it alone, join the flock because we have all of the resources to help you get through that successfully, including,
hold on just a second because I wanted to say I started this late. I already established that. And I was trucking along and I got to a point in the pattern where I was like, that's not really clear. I should text Erin and see what I should do. And then I was like, no, wait. The whole point of the Morehouse Merino flock group is that the lessons are there for you. So I found it. I went through the lessons. And you answered my question in the video. And it was clearly labeled. So I was like, that's going to have it if it has it. And like 2 minutes in, the answer was there. And I was like, perfect. I didn't have to disturb Erin's evening. I have my answer. And I moved on. And I was yes, the flock group.
Well, you're welcome to do that. There is a chat feature, so always wonderful to hear from you. However, if it's a time where I might be asleep and you really want to keep on knitting, that's what all that's there for. Or when you're, if you're not doing a little bit every day and you want to just, work your way right through it. Or you want to try something
about striking. Look at Erin's colors. I just love that. And so, look, just hold them next to each other real quick.
So rainbows of a different kind.
Yeah.
Right?
You can go subtle or you can go bold. I love it.
And this one, I decided, because I was going to do so many different colors, and this is why I could never be an influencer, because I have ends.
You didn't tape those down, Erin.
Well, they're in the front because of the
I-cord.
I-cord. So what I did was, because there were so many colors that were going to be changing, is I decided to add an I-cord on the edge that I'm going to knit as I go. And I was experimenting with, and also for the videos, do I tuck them in as I go and knit around them, or do I leave them out and then how do you tuck them in later? So you can do either one, because some people like to tuck them in as they go, and some people just say, let me put on a Netflix marathon and tuck in all my ends, depending on the project, whatever it is you like. So you could do either or, but I'm really stoked about how that's coming out. So now I have to move my way into the blues because I want one of every color. Yes, please.
Yeah, it's so cheery. I love that.
So anyway, and I'm mixing. Am I mixing? Yes, I did end up mixing yarns. It's all a variation on all of our sport weights, which you can't even really see from, I don't think, where you are. So good way to use up little bits of leftovers. And I was measuring, I think I needed 10 yards for this green section. So you really don't need a lot.
Wow. Yeah, you really don't.
For the different colors.
I love these patterns because it's so addictive. Like these little short row sections that you knit back and forth, like you get in your groove with it. And then all of a sudden, like you feel like you're doing tiny little pieces, but you've done a big chunk.
Yes.
You know? And
the other cool thing that I'm noticing, because this is all garter stitch. So I'm trying to teach myself to mirror knit in the other direction in preparation for a couple of things. One, which being an upcoming class, we're going to do some entrelock, which is going to be great to be able to go back and forth without having to turn your work.
Wait till you hear what this... We're saving that for later.
Anyway, so I'm just coolest. Like all of the colors. Yes,
yeah.
Yes.
Someone did one, speaking of blue and orange, someone posted on a Work in Progress Wednesday post on the I Thought I Knew How Facebook group. They're in progress, butterfly cowl, and it's navy blue with orange on the inside. And I was like, oh, I love it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All kinds of unusual colors, combinations that when you think about them, you say, oh, I wouldn't put those together unless I was a Mets fan or Broncos fan or something, right? And then all of a sudden, no, that's not the right colors. Anyway.
Someone will correct us.
Yeah, I know, right? So below. Anyway, and then you go,
I was going to be so impressed that you just like knew those teams' colors off the top of your head.
Yeah. So, but anyway.
I just think it's like, color theory. Go across the color wheel. Mm-hmm. Blues to orange. Yep. Never really appealed to me before, but the last 6 months or so, I'm like, wow, that's just beautiful.
Well, Albert is a Mets fan when the Yankees aren't playing, so... Okay. That's why I know that one.
That's how you know. So what have you been working on? That's all, I've been on so many things. Tell me what you've been working on. Because I can see them already, and they're beautiful. And I want to know.
I was going to say, at work, I have 3 new clients that I'm helping with their management reporting, which is just awesome to help small businesses understand what story their numbers are telling them and use that as a way to become more sustainable economically. And that's just been jazzing me, but it also means I've been on the road and not at home, and when I'm driving myself, I can't be knitting.
Such a bummer. But my husband's been out of town almost for 3 weeks now. He was home for a few days in between, and I'm like, I am losing so much knitting time because he's not here to drive.
However, anyway. Do have to spend a few nights in a hotel here and there, so that's a good just stay, come on, chill time that I get to decompress from my day. And working on stuff. So I've been actually test knitting things.
Nice.
So the first one you'll see, today's release day actually. This is Avery Shores by Brenda Shack. Brent's J Knits. And you can see, this is going to get into Anne's theme of lace a little bit here, but it's garter stitch in multiple colors. And then I went rogue with her permission and added a third color for the lace border because I just thought, wow, it's a really awesome combination. Yeah. So I should take this off because I think this looks very...
it looks like a shawl.
But also, on the camera, I think this looks pretty subtle, the coloration. And up close, you can see, right, it's a light blue and a light green. And then the dark blue for the lace. And lace doesn't have to be super crazy. This is just a really
And show the back
border.
So they see. It's a cowl. It's not even a shawl. We were talking for 15 minutes and she took it off and it shocked me. I was like, oh, I thought that was
beautiful,
a shawl.
Right? So now I don't have to worry about the dreaded choking myself or it fell off, or on the farm you can't wear a shawl around a PTO shaft. That'd be a really bad idea. Any loose clothing, no good. Or you lose it, or it just ends up looking like you have laundry wrapped around your neck at some point. We've all been there. All right. So anyway, Brenda did a fantastic job on this, and it gave me the opportunity to give a new yarn a test drive.
Yes. So we got a glimpse of that earlier. How gorgeous is that? And these aren't just new colors. This is a new yarn for Morehouse.
Yes. So it is a true worsted, and there are some new colors in here. So like this one, I think needs to be called Mango.
Yeah. And you sounded kind of iffy about that when you told me earlier, and I can vouch for this is mango colored.
Yes.
Because that was like almost every breakfast in the Philippines, we would have the local mango. And this is as soon as I saw it, I was like, oh, it's mango. Like that's the inside color of those particular mangoes.
And I always
And now I'm like...
wanting mango.
Wanting mango. Like my mouth is watering for mangoes. This is my addiction coming back to me. You can't get them here though. They don't have it's a different kind of mango.
Yeah, not the same.
Yeah.
I think that's true of any local food. So when I travel, I love to hear what people eat that's their local or regional food that you can't get somewhere else in the world. Yeah. So we'd love to hear what are your local foods that you can't get somewhere else. So if you're in the Midwest, when I get to Oklahoma or I get to, Nebraska, they always say steak. It's like, yes, but your neighbors are going to say that too in the next state over, right?
And we have steak.
Yeah. So what are you known for that nobody else has? So here's a few of my examples. So New England does cider donuts really well.
Yes, we do.
Yes. The other thing we do in southern New England really well is chowder.
Chowder.
3 ways.
Yeah.
Do you want red? Do you want white? Or do you want clear?
Clear?
Rhode Island.
Oh, okay.
So you got a Manhattan.
I hadn't heard of that before.
Manhattan's
red
the red
is
one.
The Manhattan.
And then the creamy one is the New England.
Which is what I grew up with.
And then the Rhode Island has a clear broth.
Yeah. Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, so we got that. And then Ontario.
I'm not from southern New England originally.
Oh, well.
I'm northern Massachusetts. I consider myself more northern. Anyway.
New delicacies. And then, let's see, Ontario, shout out to Canada. Butter tarts.
Yes. Delicious. This was one of my favorite things about doing the online International Fiber Festival was really digging to try and figure out like what is unique to that area. And I had, when we did Saskatchewan, I had people saying like, oh, Saskatchewan berry tarts or berry pie. You have to have that as the dessert. And I was like, I would love to have that as the dessert, but they're called Saskatchewan berries for a reason. Like, we cannot get those.
Because we can't grow them.
In order to make them. So, yeah.
So, like, huckleberries in Montana, because that's where they grow. You can't just get them and plop them anywhere.
Yeah.
New Mexico, of course, would say the chilies, but, like, the green chili you wouldn't get somewhere else. Mm-hmm. So that was another one. So I was actually the keynote speaker at a conference in Nebraska at one point, and they had a bunch of interns, college kids that were tasked with transporting me back to the airport. So I put this challenge to them. So they went through the steak and all that kind of stuff, thinking, and then they're like, a runza.
What is that?
Well, I'd never heard of it either. So they're like, okay, we have to stop. So it's a chain fast food restaurant, but the fast food is this, it's baked and it looks like a roll for a sub sandwich. But when you cut it in half, it's got ground beef and cheese and kind of like onions. So it's almost like a sloppy joe without the red in the middle, but they
and it's bready. It's not like pie crusty.
Correct. So it's like we make the loaf of bread that's going to be your roll, but then we put the filling in it and then bake it, and then once it comes out of the oven, it's sliced in half, and then you put your lettuce, tomato, cheese, whatever else you want more of on there. And I give them a lot of points for creativity for
that's pretty awesome.
And it's I think it's a Scandinavian origin, and then somebody turned it into a chain of restaurants, and that's what they do.
That sounds wonderful. When we were driving across country ages ago, and we got to Missouri, we kept seeing signs for fried pie.
Fried pie.
And we never stopped. It's one of my great regrets of my life because I love pie.
I have to go back.
But we did ask. We were going through Missouri to stop with a cousin and spend the night before we moved on. We asked him, and he said, "Yeah, it's like a McDonald's apple pie, like that kind of thing. Like that's the idea of a fried pie. Like it's like a fritter."
Okay.
Is that the right word? But anyway, like
something you'll find at the Big E.
The pie crust totally, it's a handheld pie crust with the pie filling inside.
Like an empanada?
And they fry it. Yeah. So it's like an empanada, basically.
Nice.
And I was like, yeah, now I regret even more not stopping.
Have to go back.
Okay, so we got mango.
So you were on your orange kick.
Yeah. This one doesn't have a name. And you were saying you already have pumpkin and henna?
We have a pumpkin, we have a henna.
So it can't be pumpkin or henna.
Right, that is a pretty good pumpkin orange, but I don't know, maybe it's a jack-o'-lantern or something. So I think we're going to need some help naming all of this. Yeah. And then I'm wrestling with what do we call this yarn, because we already have the 3-strand worsted, which we know, right, is a good worsted on the heavier side. This one's just a tad bit thinner, so it's a true worsted. And I'm trying to think of what's a good name to call the kind of yarn, and kind of tossing around like something that's fairly natural, because we don't superwash our yarn and we don't carbonize it either, so it's as natural as can be. And yeah, I've been wearing it all day in the cowl. So I was tossing around a couple of names, and the word farmstead came up, and and Casey said maybe homestead.
Worsted.
But then I started thinking about, we've got a couple of fun names in our history. So when Margaret and Albrecht imported the first 2 superfine rams to the U.S., their names were Glenlee and Graflin. So like those could be fun names for it. And then I was just thinking, like, or do we just name it after Margaret? And this is like Laura. This is the
Laura.
So what do you think? Put it in the comments.
Laura line of yarns.
Yeah, Laura. Yeah. So anyway, what do you think? Put it in the comments, because you guys are going to source the best ideas. I know.
Because Erin needs names. So this one has a name, Mango. If you have suggestions for these colors, and let's go 1, 2, 3.
And there's 12 altogether. So,
but help us out. Help Erin out here. Let's get some names going.
And 3 of them were used in this cowl.
Yeah, those are 3 different ones.
Yep.
So this darker blue here, and the lighter blue and the green.
Mm-hmm. And then I'm working on a hat with the leftovers.
So that's 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So that's 7 of the 12 colors. Yeah. If you have suggestions, put them in the comments below.
All right.
And if you have a suggestion for the name of the yarn itself, put it in the comments below.
I wish this was a conversation.
I know.
More than, this is a conversation.
No, but
fun conversation.
Yeah, you wish you could get the feedback now.
Like, yeah, right.
What are you thinking? Yeah, this is fun. I like this.
So I'm pretty excited about that. So I've got this. I've got a hat in the works that will hopefully be like perfect to use up the leftovers from this. So you can be super coordinating. And what else? A couple of new designs in the works that I'm just collecting ideas for, as a couple of designers that we work with say, hey, what do you think about this? Or I've got this hat. I finally did something with your lace yarn. And I got that picture yesterday. So I'm like, oh, that's pretty cool. So I wouldn't have thought to do baubles.
Ooh.
But that's a new skill that we haven't learned yet. And actually, can I introduce one of my next...
Yeah.
Because this was a test knit, and this is release day, by the way.
Our podcast, not my podcast. You don't have to ask permission.
Oh, okay. I'm going off road here, off script. Anyway, so you can get Avery Shores. Brenda's got it on Ravelry, but you can also get the entire kit at morehousefarm.com, which I'm really excited about.
Excuse me.
I hope...
I just remembered that since the last time we did it, I knit the dragon scarf. And I don't have it here to show, but because I gave it to my oldest, who's obsessed with dragons with it already, and reptiles and things. They were telling me they put it there. They have a herpetology group online that they like hang out in because, like, seriously, obsessed with reptiles. And they posted it, and like an hour before you got here today, I got a text from Rosie saying, "Hey, I put that scarf on the herpetology group, and everyone wants to know where the pattern is." So I sent a link to the kits because it's so awesome. It's so cute. I'll put a link below for the Morehouse dragon scarf. It's absolutely adorable. Okay, you had another project too that you finished.
I do, and you see me like picking things out because, well, my dog has taken this over. So isn't this gorgeous? This is called Quinn's Pillow. It's another one of Marin's amazing designs.
Wow, look how great it looks on the screen.
Ingenious.
I mean, it looks fantastic in person. I don't know. Sorry. Sometimes, like... Anyway, sorry. It looks gorgeous.
So she had done an entire blanket in, I think, a sport weight yarn, which would be... just like on my wish list of when I have time to sit and knit an entire blanket or one square a day. And it's beautiful because it looks like the quilt stars that you see. So
speaking of Pennsylvania, right? We have like the sort of Dutch influence.
So you start with these. It's actually 4 corners and then you Kitchener. And if you're afraid of Kitchener, you need to come join the flock because I have this very different way of thinking about it that actually mimics what you do with the yarn so you can see where you're supposed to put it and you don't have to be talking to yourself. Right? If the knit on, purl off helps you, awesome. And if you want a different way to think about it, as opposed to where you're placing the stitches. Like,
how will my family know I'm not causing havoc somewhere if they can't hear me saying as if to knit and on, as if to purl and off?
Well, I don't know. They learn from you, right? You're a mom. When the house gets quiet is when you need to worry.
That's right. What's going on?
So you do the front and then you add an I-cord border. And then
it's really nice.
So I'm like
hold that closer so people can see how that border looks.
And please pardon the dog hair. My dog decided that this was a pretty comfy thing to be sitting with on the couch, so she's just gonna take that over. And then the back is opens so that you have an underlap and an overlap, and you can stripe it in any combination that you want. I followed what Marin wrote because, well, she was writing the pattern and I was testing it. Yeah. And then you got some ribbing here, more I-cord border, and then you can either do buttons or baubles. And I found some cool buttons that I liked.
Buttons or baubles?
Yeah, so to keep this closed, if you do a bauble on the underside, you don't need a button because then the bauble will poke through.
What?
I know, right?
That is genius.
Yeah, so like self-made buttons or like it's like self-striping yarn, but this kit comes with its own like self-making buttons. So anyway, your Quinn pillow, and it took 5 skeins of our 3-strand worsted. Actually, if you got 2, let's see. It was like 1 and change of the sand, and I ended up into like halfway through the 3rd one of the red, I believe. I'm looking back.
You'll have a little bit left over.
Yeah, so like if you doubled it up, you wouldn't quite need double to do 2 pillows, one for each end of the couch. And then it's just a regular pillow form on the inside here. I got a 18-inch pillow form and plop.
That's beautiful.
There we go. So I'm pretty stoked about this one.
And you have so many colors, too, that you can match it to your decor.
Yeah. And I'm like even just kind of like eyeballing, how cool would these 2 be? Or like, sherbet.
That was my suggestion for this one, right? Raspberry sherbet?
Yep, there you go. Yep. Right. Yep. So it is also Outlander release weekend. And if you're a fan of those triangle shawls worn in a different way, we were just talking about how, if you got a shawl, now you got to worry about it choking you or hands-free. But if you haven't seen the show, or if you have, watch how they're styled. These triangle shawls, they are very simple in design with natural colors and then tucked into a belt like this. Right. Or it would be very easy if you make it a big enough shawl. I just put a button on the ends and then button it behind my back. And there I go. Hands-free. It's got my shoulders covered. This one is Kate Atherley's design. She put it as a free pattern on her Instagram account. And it's Kate's Everyday Desk Shawl. And this was just 2 skeins of our worsted weight. I used the original 3-strand. You could use either of them. And the point is that you work until you run out of yarn or run out of time. And use whatever needles you like. So believe it or not, I was using a size 13 for a worsted weight yarn, and I love the fabric.
It's got great drape to it. Oh, I love that.
And it's not it's not too loose where it's just floppy.
It still has plenty structure. You could tell that's still going to be a warm shawl, but it's got movement to it.
Yeah. And just this is a great one too if you want to just wrap it around your neck like a regular shawl. Like people have seen me wearing it like this, and made me want to just make it like a tube version, like a giant regular cowl.
Sort of
and what else was I going to say about it? Yeah, so if you are a fan of that, that's 2. This is 2 skeins. If you wanted to do 3, you could have an even bigger one. And I just love the pattern. Keep on going, like she said, until you run out of time, run out of yarn.
Awesome.
And I'm going to dive over here and just go grab my needle so I can keep knitting.
And I will keep talking. So you heard me already say, I think, that...
Oh, and I just shake everything, too.
Yeah, that's okay. So Erin mentioned that I wanted to talk about lace today. And I do want to talk about lace today. This month, March, is all about lace for me. Like, I had it on the calendar. The top of my calendar over there says lace, lace, lace across the top because I just wanted to focus on it. And one of the reasons why was because... Elizabeth Williamson, who is Shetland-born knitter. Sorry, I dropped a stitch as I was talking. Had to pause there and fix that. Is offering some classes, and I'm in one of them right now. It's a 5-week class to knit a mini Shetland hat.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what, we talked about that earlier, about how you have the center square, you have a border around it, and then you have a lace edging around. So we are working on that this month, and I can show you actually, because I did my first edging is done.
Ooh, ooh, ooh.
So that's that. Now, what's going to happen in the next class is we're going to pick up along this edge here,
mm-hmm.
and we're going to knit a shape like that leans in a little bit. And then we are going to, on top of that, we are going to knit a square. Okay?
Why don't you just back us up a bit, and if you're not familiar with the word hap.
Hap is the word for shawl. So I have...
Nothing like getting into the middle of your instructions and then like the one thing
like,
at the
what
beginning.
Are we talking about? Yeah.
Or like, hey, Erin, set this up on my computer. Like, the screen doesn't look anything like that. If I had one piece of extra information. Oh yeah, click there.
So you have your edging, you come up diagonally and do what's called the border, and then you're going to have a square on top of that, right?
So it's a trapezoid with a square on top of it?
It's a trapezoid with a square on top. And then we're going to stop. And then we're going to knit the edging again and the border again, and we'll connect it to the top of the square. And then we'll do the edging again and the border again and connect it to the side of the square, and the edging and the border and connect it to the side. And at the end, we will have a square shawl.
So I think if I'm reading this right, like you're going to have a section, right, which is a...
Yep.
And then the square in the middle.
There'll be a square in the middle. There's 2 sections. Then the sections are like this, coming off the square. But there's no square here.
No, but the same idea of like have these
so the way that
you
this
put
is
together to the center.
So that construction that I just described to you is completely new to me. I hadn't heard about it before.
Oh,
I'd only known
cool.
of 2 ways to do Shetland haps or Shetland shawls, and that was either you knit all the edging first,
mm-hmm.
and then you pick up on a quarter of it and do that slanty bit. Then pick up the next quarter, do the slanty bit. Next quarter, do the slanty bit. 4th quarter, do the slanty bit. And on that last one, you do the square. Then move it all around the square and connect up all the loose edges.
Mm-hmm.
So that was another way. And then the third way, or the second way I knew already, was you do the square first. You pick up all the way around and you knit the edging, doing increases as you go, mm-hmm. or the border, doing increases as you go in lace. And then you do the edging back and forth on the side, or you continue doing increases and do an edging. So anyway,
this sounds like the kind of brain teasers Albrecht would give me as a kid, because he's an architect and he'd like draw a shape and say like, okay, what does this look like from the side? I'm giving you the top view.
Right. Yeah. Math class. Right. Did a lot of that with my my 4th graders. Like, if you have this thing, how many cubes could go into this
Yes,
thing?
that same idea.
What?
I'm giving you these shapes.
But
like, you
what if it's empty behind? Oh, you blew my mind.
I'm giving you these shapes. What design will it make?
Yeah.
A tulip. Oh.
So that sounds complicated. I understand that. But the whole reason why they did it that way was to actually simplify things. They had those 2 things to simplify things, because it allowed them either to, with the outward... start with the inner square and work your way out.
It's pretty
much
big.
Easier construction.
Yeah.
You don't have to worry about seaming all of those little bits. But when doing it in the pieces, as described, made it much more portable for people.
Good practice, right? So like by the time you're on your 4th one, you're pretty good.
Yeah, you're pretty good at it. So people who were production knitters, they had their preference. They learned different ways from their moms and aunts and stuff, and they had the ways that they learned how to do it. So there you go. There's at least 3 different ways that Shetland lace shawls were constructed. But one of the things I like about Shetland lace is that even though it sometimes looks very complicated, typically it's no more than a 12-stitch repeat.
Mm-hmm.
So you might have those motifs that are made up of 12-stitch repeats really close together. And in that case, it looks super complicated, but it's really just a 12-step repeat. And that's sort of what's going on with the Cinca here that I'm wearing. it looks complicated, but it is a series of repeats that get smaller. You just drop a stitch each time as you go up. And it's a very simple repeat otherwise.
This one's only, I think, 10.
Yeah, we have the border here. You know, not as lacy, not as open work. You have more solid parts. But again, you do have that lace effect. And it's just short sections that you have to keep track of at a time. Other versions of lace are more complicated. This is a sampler I did of Estonian lace. Ooh. And you can see these little thick areas here by trying, everything's backwards. That's called a nup. And so with those, you might have like 7 to 11 stitches that you are then having to knit together. That gets tricky. I'm not going to lie. That gets tricky. And it gives you those little nups, though. And you can use those to simulate flowers, lily of the valleys, and things like that. And so that's another example of lace. We have... This is actually one of my first lace projects. And you're probably going to freak out when you see it. This is done in cotton yarn. And I'm sorry. I wish I could have it show up better. This was a center out. So you cast, I think I cast on 4 stitches for that and did steady increases and had additional motifs. Again, it looks very complicated, but you just take section by section and keep your focus. And you can do some really wonderful things with it. This one is the Tansie. That we did as a knit along. See, I'm going to double up my capelets here. So this was knit back and forth. And this was sort of, we did a series of 3 shawls last year? Last year.
No, year before.
Year before?
Maybe. Oh.
I
lose the aught years when I'm talking about decades, right? So now you're going to lose the COVID years,
I'm trying to style it in the thing, and it's not working because it's backwards.
Okay.
I need it more this way.
Yep,
gotcha. I'm like looking there and trying to turn it around.
There we go.
Anyway, so you can see.
Can't reach your other side.
Anyway, you can't see it anyway. You can see the shiny things there are beads that we added to this design as we went to sort of supplement the... elegance
so mine's
of the design.
A bright turquoise.
Did you do yours in lace?
I did.
Yours is in lace white. Mine was in the Morehouse 2-ply blackberry, which is my favorite. So as you can see, like, you can have complicated lace, right? It doesn't all have to be complicated, though. You can work up to something like this. You can work up to something, even though, I say, this one isn't that hard, but you can still work up to it, right? So Erin showed us her edging. You can start with a project that is mostly garter stitch or stockinette and then has a lace edging. That's what's going on with the Hap Cowl too. Start with garter stitch and then you just have a lace bottom to focus on. You have this project here.
Yeah, so remember the green sweater that you picked out
you
picked out the green last time? So this is, and just get my yarns headed in the right direction here because I'm knitting 2 halves of the sweater. The construction has a side seam, but I've decided to do 2 at a time, so they're always the same length.
Yeah.
Just on a long needle. And this is what lace can look like with waves.
Yeah, so you're doing some cabling here, right? Where you're crossing. Not even. Or you just knit together.
And SSKs, yeah.
Yeah. So you see here, you can start your lace work with just including some open work where you're doing some yarn overs along with your SSKs. That's what lace is. It's yarn overs and knit 2 togethers or SSKs or knit 3 togethers. It's increases and decreases that you are doing together. So something like this might not feel so intimidating though, because there is so much of it that's solid, as opposed to something like this that's more airy.
And but same idea, still, 12 or 14 stitch repeat.
You're just
doing the same thing over and over again. And you can see, right, there's a chunk leaning this way, then it's here again,
Yeah.
And I'm looking at this going like is this going to fit me?
Something like this too, where the movement is so obvious, can be a good way to start with lace because it helps you learn how to start reading what's going on. And once you are comfortable reading what you've already done, lace knitting gets much easier because you can see what has to happen next. Okay, right now I'm leaning right. I'm predominantly leaning right, so I need to be doing SSKs, or I'm predominantly leaning left, so I need to be knitting two together as I'm decreasing.
And I'm testing this, so I am following the pattern, but I'm finding that I don't need to. The first repeat I went through, I was following the chart. Now I'm following the written to make sure that they match and that they come out the same. And so far, so good. So now I've got to do, so bottom up. Maybe need to
that'll fit you.
Do that twice again, and then I should be to the arm divide.
So people, I think they see lace and they feel overwhelmed, like they're going to be overwhelmed with it. What really ends up happening for me with lace, anyway, because it is so repetitive, I actually find lace really calming to knit.
I'm glad you didn't say boring.
Well, you
never know what Anne's going to say.
It's over and over and over and over. It becomes meditative, right? Like you're just doing the same repeat over and over. But it does require your attention, so it doesn't get boring. But it's that repetitive sort of action that can
AKA practice?
Yeah, practice that can become like almost meditative to work on. So I would say don't be afraid of lace. Start with something that has an edging. Start with something that just incorporates some yarn overs and decreases. Or start with a small project. Like Erin has these wonderful candle covers that this is actually, this project, and we have this other one here too, is a bonus class that's going on in the Morehouse Merino flock. And they're just small lace projects that, you know what, if you got this far and messed up, you could pull that out and not cry yourself to sleep.
Or put it around a practice and add a bow and give it away to somebody.
Right. Like you're not going to be upset if you make a mistake on something this small. It's a good starter project. They're beautiful. They're candle covers done in lace. How wonderful to have a gift like this for someone. Last minute. Instead of just giving a candle, you add a little something that's a little special from you.
And this was so well received when we started talking about this idea. Could you do some that would change up the decor in my house throughout the year? So, why, yes, we can.
Yes, we can.
So I've picked out 12 designs that are going to be the Candlelight Club.
How fun is
for
that?
Next year. So you will see these again as we get towards the end of this year. I hard to believe I'm saying that in March, but time flies and we're going to be talking about Rhinebeck before we know it. And then you're going to be scrambling going, oh, what do I do for last minute gifts?
Yeah, holidays are coming.
You can knit one of these in an evening because they go that quickly. I don't think it's 40 yards of yarn.
Yeah.
It's next to nothing.
So much open work.
And off it goes around your candle. And yeah, there's a couple of local makers that I'm excited to partner with, so that we can even get candles of different sizes and shapes.
I even told Erin, I was like, I know you're doing this class right now. I'm not planning on taking it because I am trying to do holiday knitting through the year. And this is going to be like when I get to December and I'm like, oh no, I need to get caught up. I'm going to knit. Whoever doesn't already have a hat or a scarf or something knit, they're going to get a lace-covered candle. So, perfect. Spoiler alert, family members.
And if you are not into holiday gifts or want to get a jump on them, that is going to be self-paced. All the videos are there for helping you decide on a pattern, because there's 3 free patterns that are included with that class.
Right.
As you're going through, and then you can also use that information on how to build your own. So
yeah, and you can use the yarn you have, the great stash buster, great last ending. What do I do with this little bits? And if you wanted to do 2 colors, do a color. Okay.
And what's really cool, we have these in the flock, and I put one in the newsletter every once in a while. So if you're not subscribed, morehousefarm.com/news. But what do you think this looks like in the candlelight once that burns down?
I've seen the pictures. It
beautiful.
Looks really, really lovely. So anyway, I just wanted to encourage people to not be afraid of lace and to give lace a try. And you don't have to knit any of the ones that I've done. You can look on Ravelry and see what comes, handy. Try the candle covers. Just don't be afraid of it. is what I'm saying.
All right, I have found a...
Because I know as I'm knitting lace projects all month, I'm going to get a lot of comments on Instagram.
Too many holes for me.
It's so hard. How do you do that? No, you can do it.
I only pick projects that look hard. I got you snookered. Right? Like, you think I'm a brilliant knitter, and like, little do you know, I know how to knit, and I know how to purl, and I know how to yarn over, and I know how to knit two together. It's just magic.
And you get this, right?
Yeah.
So don't be afraid.
Or this.
Or that. Yeah. Okay, what do we have coming up? So for me, the Hap Cowl continues to go on. If you, like I said, if you are late to the party with that is totally okay. This is a quick knit along. You've missed the chance to win a cast on prize, but there are prizes for completion by March 31st. I am doing it in traditional, what the pattern called for, which was a Shetland jumper weight / fingering yarn. This is from Uradale's Organic Wool. Jana, however, is doing hers in a merino sock yarn, and she found she had to modify the pattern a little bit because merino behaves differently than Shetland. And so if you go to the swatching video, she has tips for that, and we are encouraging people to just stash dive for this. So see what you have, and that is continuing through the month.
Good. Give us a chance to grow more.
Yeah. The shearing's coming, I promise. I made a statement on my podcast, my audio podcast, early in the season that I was wanting to spotlight American wool makers. Well, what I didn't realize in this season, what I didn't realize was that this is the busiest time of year for the American wool growers. They're shearing and having baby sheeps and things. So so more podcasts are coming, but the focus is not going to be on American wool growers right now. That's on a little bit of a delay. But just so you know those interviews are coming up. We just have to wait for the baby sheeps to get here.
Yes, you really don't want to talk to a shepherd in the middle of the night in lambing season.
Yeah, I sent a follow-up email. I had to put one interview off, and then I sent a thing saying, "Oh yeah, hey, I can do it," and then logged on to Instagram, and the first post was them posting a picture of their first sheep, and I was like, "Oh, I'm not getting that interview in time. That's not going to happen." But anyway,
all of our words go to the flock at that point.
Yeah, so totally understandable. But I know I did have so many people message me and say, "Oh, I'm so excited you're going to focus on American wool." And I was like, "I'm so sorry, I can't do it." So anyway, I'm going to work it out. Maybe we should
have you come sit in the barn at lambing time.
I'm down with that.
Actually, you can stay all night, and then you would really know what we're talking about.
Yeah. I'll just, I don't know.
So like, what did I just get myself into?
It's one of those things where I respect the people who do it, and I'm grateful. Anyway, so more podcasts coming. The Hap Cowl Knit Along's going on, and I'm going to Iceland.
Cool.
Next month. So our next episode, we're actually going to film early because I'm going to be in Iceland. Mm-hmm. It should release towards the beginning of April, but I'm hoping to have some footage in May for people. Nice. And then in May, we're going to Shetland.
That's right.
For the Macking Our Way Through Shetland thing. So we're going to have one of our episodes should come from there also.
So do I make a shawl to wear? Or
are you coming for Lace or Fair Isle the first time? Is it Fair Isle?
I don't remember. What's the first one?
The very first one is Fair Isle.
Okay.
So you're coming for Fair Isle. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm going to need a shawl because I'm not going to be making one.
Yeah. So come with a shawl. Make a shawl. Make it lacy. It'll be beautiful.
Actually, I have, just happened upon some pretty awesome lace patterns. So I will show that off next time. How about that?
Yeah, sounds good.
And I'll make March lace also. But if you are not into lace or just want a little bit of a treat for yourself, we have teamed up with Nancy from Lyric Hill Farm so that we're going to needle felt some soaps because merino wool is amazing for felting when it's not been treated for superwash. And Nancy hand makes these soaps. This one's lavender.
I
smell that and keep the moths away. So, and then she puts this base of light blue around it, and then we're going to take Morehouse merino, just little bits of wool, but also yarn to put the detail in on a monarch butterfly and an echinacea flower. I don't know if you can see this up close. We'll add in a picture. Look at the highlights. This is Nancy all teaching us. So if you don't have any artistic ability, don't worry. Neither do I. But this is my soap in the practice one. It's kind of like those paint nights. I will say, though, no wine until after you have been done poking something.
It is a sharp needle.
So we've got the kits on morehousefarm.com. Comes with your patterns, instructions, soap, 2 felting needles to get you started.
Nice.
And all of the materials you need in the right colors and the right combinations, plus your templates in there. So what's really cool about this is watching how you lay down a design, the back layers first, which you think about like a sculpture artist. Okay, you have to know what pieces, or a chainsaw carver or an ice carver, right? Like you have to know what parts of the dolphin's fin is going to stick out to the side. So don't like shape the dolphin without the fin. Because you won't end up having anything left. You can't just attach it back. Same idea here. You have to put down the back layers first, and then you're adding on, and the highlights come later. So you're going to learn all of that as well. So those classes are March 12th and March 15th. And you also have a self-paced course. If you can't make the class and still want to do it and not try to give it a go on your own, we welcome you, and you'll be with us all month.
It's so great.
So we have 2 flavors. Oh, also lavender and then milk and honey. So if you...
I've smelled the milk and honey before, too. That one's very nice.
Yeah. So what's really cool about this, it is a beautiful soap. Yes, you are going to want to use it because when you use up the soap, you have an ornament.
Yeah.
Which Nancy also said she uses as
like flattens as you go. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And you'll have a diffuser. Like, so you could put some essential oil on it, hang it in the room, hang it in your car, wherever you put it. And
stick it in a drawer.
Yeah. And there you go. So I'm pretty excited about
that. Is really cute.
That.
And it turned out really well.
And hey, it's kind of like paint by number when you're little, you know, and I don't color inside the lines really well. So we can definitely do that. And coming up in April, we're going to be working on entrelac, which is a pretty cool technique where you see little squares that are kind of tilted sideways, and then they're attached to each other, and you knit them together.
Yes.
Without having to carry yarn so much, but it's going to be a good practice. We're going to learn to knit in the other direction, which is going to be super helpful. So we don't have to turn our work and tangle yarn so much. So we'll do a session on that, and we're going to end up making a sheep.
It's so cute, guys. It is the cutest. And that really is the secret to making entrelac fun, I think, is learning how to knit backwards. Because otherwise, usually, like entrelac, it's like, 8 to 12 or 50, however wide. Yeah. And you're just knitting back and forth. And so if you're having to turn back and forth every time, it gets really like,
and then you got to worry about yarn.
It becomes a drain. But it's very easy to learn how to knit backwards. I shouldn't say that because maybe someone will struggle with it. It's not as hard as you might think to knit backwards. I don't know that that's any better. But once you have it, it gets fun. You're like, oh, I get to knit back. And you do your backwards knitting and then knit forward again.
Or maybe it's frontwards if you learn to knit that way too.
Yeah,
and we're just all backwards. But as one of my favorite clients said, you know what? After a while, all of a sudden, I get it.
Right.
And it's that you need that practice. So think about when you're learning to knit, right? The first 10 rows are
really hard.
Really wonky, right?
And then it clicks.
And then, I don't know, you knit 10 more and they're not so bad. And then you knit 10 more and you're like, oh, yeah, I think I'm starting to get it. And then somewhere, wherever it was for you, you go, oh, all of a sudden, I'm holding the needles in a way that's not like this. Right? Like I'm actually feel like I'm maneuvering it. And same way if you've taught yourself how to pick versus throw, or when I had my wrist surgery and was learning to do lever knitting, like, boy, that feels super awkward and really, really cool. Just like, I'm glad I have that in my toolbox. And so mirror of the way that I learned to knit is also really neat. So I'm trying to figure out different ways to hold the yarn because it's not exactly the mirror in the yarn holding and where it ends up. So we'll work on that.
We're working on
together.
It's fun. And the sheep is adorable. It really is. So I am looking for it. I think we have 2 fantastic. You have 2 very cute and fun and out of the ordinary projects coming up in the Morehouse Merino flock that I'm very excited for.
Yep. And we'll keep them coming. So come join us.
Guys, it's been fun, but we got to move on. So we're gonna. And I hope you guys have an excellent month, and we will see you in April. Bye.
Bye.